Hey everybody, welcome back to Mid-Rock Crisis. Today we're going to talk about a favorite band of mine, Kansas. American rock band, was popular in the 70s. Arena rock and American prog. Progressive rock, also known as art rock, was originally a furthering of psychedelic rock of the 60s. The artists are generally compositional as opposed to improvisational. Can be associated with fusion of rock, with jazz, folk, classical, or all three at one time. Lyrics are often poetic, and the studio took precedence over the stage, creating music for listening rather than for dancing. Kansas, while as eclectic as any UK prog band, adds Americana to the mix. Think of the musical Oklahoma, but performed by the band Rush. In '69, Don Montre and Kerry Livgren were in the band The Reasons Why in Topeka, that's Kansas. They joined with Lynn Meredith and Dan Wright to form the band Saratoga, which began playing Livgren's originals. Scott Kessler and Zeke Lowe formed the rhythm section. In 1970, Saratoga was annexed by Kansas. Dave Hope took over on bass, Phil Ahart on drums. Livgren, Hope, Ahart, Montre, and Meredith are referred to as Kansas One. Kansas signed with Don Kirshner at this point. There was more juggling of members, and then in '74, the Kansas album was released a full year after it was recorded in New York City. American boogie rock with symphonic arrangements and changing time signatures. Robbie Steinhardt added violin. He was more of a hoedown fiddler, rather as opposed to a classical violinist, but that didn't mean he didn't have chops. He just probably wouldn't play in a band like Renaissance or Curved Air, whose violinists were classical. With Don Kirshner's promotion, Kansas developed a cult following. There were two more albums from this edition of the band, Song for America and Mask. Leftoverture album was recorded at a studio located deep in the Louisiana Bayou in 1976, and the single Carry On My Wayward Son was their commercial breakthrough. Next album, Point of No Return, was released in '77, and the single Dust in the Wind proved that Kansas was no one-hit wonder. Both Leftoverture and Point of No Return sold 4 million copies, and the band sold out Madison Square Garden. 1978 saw a double live album, Two for the Show. The band became known for faithful reproductions of their studio recording when playing live. In '78, Kansas went on a European tour, and they were named Ambassadors of Goodwill by UNICEF. Their top 40 single, People of the South Wind, was a reference to the Kaw tribe, also known as Kansa, Native Americans whom the state and the band were named for. '79 saw a North American tour, followed closely by an Asian tour the next year. Kansas were ready for some changes. Livgren became a born-again Christian, and this was reflected in the lyrics of the next three albums, but now there were a slew of creative differences over the lyrics, and Walsh left, replaced by John Elefante, also a Christian. In '82, Vinyl Confessions. The top 20 hit Play the Game Tonight went to number 4. There was a new audience, but sales were meager. In '83, Drastic Measures. Most of the songs were composed by Elefante. Violinist Steinhardt left. Kansas was now less prog, more mainstream, and the sales were still low. Livgren had been uncomfortable with Elefante's exploitation of Christian themes. That's when Kelly left. Elefante tried to carry on, but only one more song was recorded by this incarnation, Perfect Lover. It was included on the 1984 Best of Kansas compilation, First Blush, but The Perfect Leather was rejected. From 85 to 90, a reformation with Ahart, Williams, and Walsh, who'd been residing with Cheap Trick. Bassist Billy Greer and ex-Dixie Dregs guitarist Steve Morse joined. 1986, Power. Single All I Wanted was the last Kansas single to chart. MTV videos circulated, but then Steve Morse left. In 1990, the remnants of Kansas played a show with Rush in Malibu. Kelly Livgren returned and violinist David Ragsdale joined, allowing Kansas to play their back catalog. But Livgren left again and Morse came back. Then Morse left again to join Deep Purple, replacing Ritchie Blackmore. In 97, Robbie Steinhardt returned, and in 98, Kansas recorded Always Never the Same with the London Symphony Orchestra. In 2000, the album Somewhere to Elsewhere, and the band shared the stage with Yes on their Masterworks tour. Kansas now lived in Georgia. They toured every year from 06 to 14. Steinhardt left again, and Ragsdale came back again. 2010 tours with Styx and Foreigner, but it's unclear which band gave prog cred to which band. Kansas then toured on the college circuit in order to appear with various orchestras of the colleges and universities that they were at. And the proceeds were given to schools to raise money for scholastic music programs. In 2013, Kansas participated on the Rock Legend cruise with Foreigner, Paul Rogers, Creedence Clearwater Revisited, without John Fogerty, Bachman and Turner, 38 Special, Marshall Tucker Band, Blue Oyster Cult, Foghat, and Molly Hatchet, all on a cruise ship. Buy your ticket, different concert every day, get to go check out the Caribbean. Not a bad deal. 2014, vocalist Walsh returned, and Kansas signed with Inside Out Music. It's a German label. Now here is something I would like to tell you. Kansas has been criticized for becoming a Christian band, but I tend to think that going back to their early works, you look very carefully, you'll see that maybe they always were somewhat of a quote-unquote Christian band. They were always very spiritual. It's just they weren't overtly Christian. They spoke about God in heaven, not naming Jesus by name, but that's what happened when Elefante came and Livgren left. Now Terry Livgren was an incredible, fantastically gifted and talented guitarist and songwriter. I venture to say without Livgren, there is no Kansas. Now Kansas in 74, when you heard this band, you could just tell something different was happening. It was very hard guitar rock with Hammond breaks on the organ. And grade A, first album top to bottom, but there were no radio hits. That kind of band, long songs, a lot of music, a lot of notes. Not really crafted for radio, except for maybe late night FM. In 75, they came out with Song for America. Pardo likes this one best. The track Song for America is 10 minutes of beautiful prog majesty, but there's still no singles. The first two albums are better than the third, which was called Mask. Phil Ahart is underrated. I don't like Mask much. I miss the Deco logo. If it ain't broke, guys, don't fix that. Boston and Styx are two American prog-like bands. For instance, in 76, the album Left Overture, it went 5 times platinum. I always thought side 2 was better. Carry On My Wayward Son is a sequel to the Pinnacle song on Mask. This is Terry's album for sure. The Wall is nice, wayward, only single to chart in the UK. And 77 Point of No Return. I love this song. It's as good as the first two albums and better than Left Overture. And the Deco logo is back. And who doesn't like a handsome sea serpent on the art sleeve? Then we get Dust in the Wind. Now, Dust in the Wind is a very interesting song. It really began life as a guitar exercise for Kerry Livgren. He's doing a chord progression on his acoustic guitar comprised of about 8 chords over and over, when another band member walked in, probably Walsh, said, "What is that?" And Kerry said, "I'm just doing exercises on my guitar here, just, limbering up." And Walsh said, "No, that's a song." And that's the birth of that song that we all have come to love, called Dust in the Wind. Such Americana. Speaking of Americana, in '79 it came out with Native America in a horn space helmet and the moon a crash into the earth, but the music is kind of disco prog, like Wild Bill Hickok on skates at Club Xanadu. Maybe 80 Audio Visions. It was better than Monolith, but nothing like the Kansas we have loved. And is Bob Dole keeping track of this music? Disco Kansas won't win elections. Walsh skips town. In '82, Vinyl Confessions. This Kansas is now called Christian rock. Not as grating as Bob Dylan's conversion on his Blood on the Tracks, but close. I don't hate this album. In '83, Drastic Measures. I do like Elefante's voice. Vinyl Confessions is a pretty good bunch of songs. There's a bazooka in the quintet. Oh, I'm sorry. That's a bassoon. '86, Power. Welcome, Steve. Welcome, Steve Morse. Welcome back, Walsh. Kansas with no Kerry Livgren? Come on. Welcome back to the logo. It's an Art Deco logo that I particularly enjoy. And Kansas has a statewide infestation of synthesizers. It's the 80s, of course. Is there any hope? No, there isn't. Hope went with Livgren. Sorry. In '88, In the Spirit of Things, it's a concept album about a historical flood in Kansas in 1951. Elefante was better than this. It's like a documentary. 95, Freaks of Nature. This was recorded in Trinidad, and it sounds like it. Oh wait, Rich Williams is here. I didn't recognize him. In '98, Always, Never the Same. Eleanor Rigby, Symphonic. Dust in the Wind, Symphonic. Song for America, Symphonic. I think that this is all not such a good idea. Is it a little overblown? Is it milking Kelly? 2000, Somewhere to Elsewhere. And Kerry Livgren comes back. But who let him sing? Oh, it was just on the last track, but Walsh's voice is nothing like in the heyday. Having Kerry back and Robbie makes it all okay, though. In 2016, the Prelude Implicit, and Steve Walsh isn't here, he retired. Ronnie Platt takes over lead vocals. Dave Mannion on keyboards, and Kerry Livgren, he's gone again. Sleeve art is good. A blue phoenix. I get it. It's okay, and I do like this album. It succeeds as much as it misses, though. So Kansas' first album, Song for America and Point of No Return, are the best. Second, There Is No Leftoverture Somewhere in Elsewhere. Third tier is Vinyl Confessions and Drastic Measures. Not sure Prelude Implicit counts as a real Kansas album, but it's nice. Mask and Monolith, you can have those too. And the rest, meh. That's my take. What's yours? Here's a secret, as I said before. Kansas is the embodiment of heartfelt Christianity all the way back to their beginning. I think they just overdid it, is all. And Kansas overdoing something, that's saying a lot. Thanks for being with me on my show, Mid-Rock Crisis. Try and save that rock and roll one more time. See you next time, everybody. Be well.